right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Salal. I'm one of the co-founders of AdSkate. So today's podcast series is focused on um, sort of around the topic of how influencer marketing is becoming a mainstream marketing strategy, and what its role lies in today, as far as the total marketing mix goes. And to sort of speak on the topic with me today, I have with me our guest speaker, Navi Singh. Just a quick background about her. Navi is the head of influencer marketing at Wish.com. At Wish, and Navi, with her team, is responsible for end-to-end implementation of influencer marketing programs and their impact on brand awareness and sales. She has a very different and unique approach to implementing these programs, which is what we're excited to learn more about today. And then, before Wish.com, now we worked in a variety of different marketing and creative roles, including some of them at leading companies like eBay and HubSpot. So, Navi, welcome to Impressions and Chai, our podcast series.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Perfect, perfect. Where does this podcast find you today?
I am in Tracy, California, right outside of San Francisco.
Wonderful, wonderful, very nice. I guess let's get started. So, my first question really is, and I'm going to start that by referring to a a a line that I read in Forbes a couple days ago, and this is what the line says, which says traditional advertising is losing ground to this approach, which is influencer marketing. Basically, as new generations are increasingly turning to social media to make a much more informed purchasing decisions. So, what are your thoughts about this comment?
I mean, it resonates with me, right? This is where influencer marketing is going. Like if you look at statistics and trends in influencer marketing, 50% of millennials trust product recommendations that come from an influencer, especially from a micro influencer, right? It goes higher. So 50% is probably at the macro level. Um, that actually surprisingly goes down when celebrities endorse a product. So you can see like where before celebrities were the main endorsers of products and that's where you would advertise with. Now it's really influencer marketing. And actually the more authentic and smaller the influencer gets, the higher the trust factor gets. So it resonates with me a lot.
Okay, okay, perfect, very good. Now, is there a specific industry category, or do certain types of businesses benefit more from influencer marketing versus other businesses, or is it business specific, or is it specific to the audience that they're trying to reach in social media? What in your opinion is sort of the best combination of the business or the advertiser and the consumer, from an influencer marketing standpoint?
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I know people always talk about how great influencer marketing is. I think people don't talk about the other side of it, right? Influencer marketing isn't like this magic wand that you wave that can sell out your business overnight. I know it seems like that, and I know you see a lot of like viral trends for small mom and pops businesses that all of a sudden go viral and they sell out. The side that you don't see is that those mom and pops businesses then cannot fulfill the demand that comes from this influencer marketing product, right? Or from the influencer marketing video. So for me, when you try to utilize influencer marketing, it really I think any brand can essentially utilize it in a way. It just depends on what the return on investment you're looking at. Is it increased sale? Is it brand awareness? Is it just engagement on your brand? What is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? I think once you hone in on what that is, then you can actually use influencer marketing in the way that you want it to, right? So I was helping like a mom and pop smaller beauty business one time. They went viral and they were using Shopify, I think, to place orders, right? They didn't have an inventory limit. So guess what? They got like 1,000 orders for lip gloss. Couldn't fulfill it because it was just literally one. It's my niece. She's 13. Like she couldn't fulfill 1,000 orders of this lip gloss order, and she didn't have the fulfillment to kind of manage that. And so really, I think figuring out, I was like, well, what were you trying to do? Well, I just wanted people to see my brand. okay, well then definitely like, you need to have those checks and balances in place then definitely.
But hey, she was able to get 1,000 orders.
Yes, she
Right,
was.
that is something to think about. And a lot of brands would struggle in today's
That's
day
right.
and age to sort of separate themselves out and get that kind of attention. So I get it. I mean, I think a business has to be ready to implement business
100%.
influencer marketing as well, so that they, as you rightly mentioned, what's the return that they are going to get on that uh, that program. So
Yeah.
um, perfect. Now, my second question sort of relates to, and you can answer this in the context of an established business like Wish, or even a smaller business that's trying to do influencer marketing. So essentially, the question is, how are brands bringing influencer marketing to the overall marketing mix, and where do you think the role of influencer marketing in the marketing strategy is headed over a course of next 2 to 3 years? So it's kind of like a two-part question, if you will.
Yeah. No, definitely. So when you look at bigger, more well-established brands, I think influencer marketing has kind of always been an intangible stream of brand awareness. But now influencer marketing, especially with shopping funnels closing down, like TikTok just launched TikTok Shop, right? Now you can turn it into a performance marketing tool. And so I think that's where influencer marketing is going, where you can tangibly actually sell products through influencers directly. Because one of the downsides of influencer marketing is if someone doesn't buy the product right away, it's very rare for them to go back and remember to buy the product later, right? And so how do you make it super simple for the consumer that's watching that video to click a link and be able to shop right away in that moment? Because it's impulse shopping at its best, right? That's what influencer marketing essentially does. And like, you, even if you read the comments on like on influencer posts, like, oh, here I am opening my like opening my wallet again. Yep, you're making me, making me shop again. But you have to capture them at that moment. And so
Okay.
YouTube is launching something where you're gonna be able to shop directly inside of YouTube. Same, TikTok just launched it to some of their creators. That's the future. How do you shorten the timeline from how do you shorten the consumer journey from them watching the video to actually checking out in their cart? And I think people are starting to catch up to that now.
That's pretty interesting. I think, so basically these platforms or influencer marketing is no longer just a marketing strategy. It also becomes a sales channel, especially for consumer brands. So that, and I like the idea about it's important to be able to convert that intent into a sale as quickly as possible. And if these brands, especially, or these platforms as you mentioned, like TikTok and YouTube, are providing that benefit to the brand so that they can close that gap quickly, you can rapidly see influencer marketing becoming more and more mainstream. Is that mainstream strategy? Is that a fair assumption?
100% a fair assumption, right? So think about it like even a year ago. How would you shop from an influencer's post? Well, they would tell you to go to a link in their bio. You'd go to their link tree. Typically, it's a link tree or some form of that kind of software. They'd click into a link, and it would take them wherever it needed to go, right? And then they would end up checking out. What is it now? Oh, well, in TikTok, you can actually click on the product, add it to the TikTok cart right there in the video. How cool is that? Well, now you can check, and then all of a sudden, something pops up and says, Are you ready to check out?" Oh yeah, I want this product right now, so I am ready to check out. And you're fulfilling the order right there in that native app experience.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
um, Perfect. um, Now, we talked a little bit about brands using it. Is there Are there certain types of businesses, or if you're trying to reach a certain type of audiences, is influencer marketing, are there scenarios where influencer marketing may not be a right channel for you? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like there are definitely, I think, businesses that might not do as well with influencer marketing, especially when you can't control a huge aspect of influencer marketing. And that is what the influencer that you hire decides to do with the content that you give them. I mean, there's checks and balances there, right? Like obviously we check every single piece of content that comes through, but when you're scaling that program, there's really only so much you can actually check. on an influencer's post. And so where I would say it's a little bit harder is when you get into these kind of spaces where politics get involved, right? Influence cancel culture is huge. So what do you do if an influencer that you've partnered with is all of a sudden now part of this cancel culture, right? How does that associate with your business? So I think I might have gone a little bit off topic of your initial question, but I do think that businesses need to think about what what it means to them, and I talked about this in the first question too. Return on investment, what are they actually looking to get? But I think essentially there isn't like unless it's a super polarizing business, there really isn't a business that can't use influencer marketing in some form or way to promote whatever they're trying to promote, whether it's a message. Nonprofits can use it to promote their messages, all the way to selling products.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Um, Building on top of that, you talked about metrics. What metrics are you looking for? How do you assess, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about sort of metrics, content quality, as well as how do you go about evaluating influencers? So, the question really is, I mean, how does Wish or you or your team identify and select the most effective influencers for its campaigns, and then what metrics do you use to measure their impact on whatever type of campaign you're planning on running, whether it is brand awareness or sales? Could you shed some light on those fronts?
Yeah. So I know when people think about influencer marketing, they really think about those shiny, really high-end macro influencers that have like the million followers and they have, they make products go viral. I'm telling you, that's not the case with most big brands. Big brands actually go after micro influencers, right? So I forgot what article I was reading. It's probably on HubSpot somewhere, but where it talks about how micro influencers generate about 60% more engagement than macro influencers. And so anybody that's a micro is anyone who has under 100,000 followers. So you can imagine they're just starting out, right? They're just starting to promote these brands. But what's changing in influencer marketing is the authenticity piece of it. So that's where cancel culture also gets in. So the shinier, the brighter you get, the more chance you have of being a part of some kind of controversy where all of a sudden you're canceled, right? The smaller you are, the more authentic your brand is, the more I think people are trusting you in order to talk about this. So that's where we focus on Wish. Wish has a very unique demographic of who we're actually what consumer we're actually trying to target. And when we're looking at that, micro influencers are the ones that provide the the right mix, right? And so with our micro influencer program, I really don't dictate a lot of what the influencers can do. You can imagine Wish has like thousands and thousands of products on our site. I don't even tell them what type of product they should look for. I really tell them to hone in on what their niche is. So if I pick a micro influencer and the only metric we look at is engagement rates for these micro influencers, right? Do they have consistent engagement, and is their engagement increasing? Is the trajectory increasing, right? Are they stagnant or are they increasing? Those are the two things we typically look at. If they are increasing, if their engagement is typically around 6 to 10%, they're a good fit for us. But then I kind of let them run wild with what they actually want to post about. And I want it to feel as real as possible. So I don't want to dictate messaging. I don't want to dictate what products they're picking. As long as they're picking, I mean, like you have guidelines, obviously, right, of do's and don'ts. But as long as they're picking within those, I want them to post whatever's going to feel the most real to their audience. So it doesn't feel like an ad.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you brought out. It's like you're not, so by letting the influencer have their freedom in terms of type of products they want to promote or how they want to use it, you're enabling them to keep their authentic content, what they're really good at, which essentially means that they are able to keep their audience engaged, because there is a reason why they have that engagement, because of who they are and the way they're presenting the content. And at the same time, when they do that for your products, as you rightly mentioned out, in the end you're able to build trust with the consumer for your brand, through these influencers.
That's
So
right. And
yeah.
like you have to think about it even from like what is the thing, everyone has an opinion about Wish, right? How do you get people to change their opinion that they've had over the years about something that's essentially become a meme? Like Wish has become a meme in a lot of ways, right? How do you change their opinion? You build loyalty with your influencer base. And how do you do that? by being as kind and by trying to promote their brand as much as you can. So we're trying to be as authentic with them, and in return they're authentic with us. And I actually get a lot of feedback from our influencers that we meet with them on a weekly basis too. We have like an open office hours where influencers will come join in, and my team, we all have our videos on, and so they actually get to know us as people. So instead of just Wish, they're working with our team, and a lot of influencers micro, they're just starting off. We're usually their first, second, maybe third brand kind of program that they're working with, and so they're excited because my focus is to actually help them grow as well. And so, and I want them to be who they want to be.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds very good. And then you talked about ROI metrics. When it comes to measuring ROI, is it just sales, or when it comes to brand awareness? What could you shed some light on what ROI metrics do you track for your influencer
Yeah,
programs?
that's changing all the time. That's why I'm laughing. We're still it's hard. It's always hard to figure out how you're going to manage and how you're going to actually parse the data out. So currently, it's really hard to kind of gauge brand awareness that's coming through these campaigns, right? Engagement's easy. Okay, well, if a post has a million views and 10,000 comments, all right, cool. Like I can go ahead and report on that. Brand awareness is a little bit harder, but we do testing all the time of we do consumer surveys all the time of what they think about a brand after they've seen an influencer post, right? Where I think we're now moving towards, and this is really brand new for us, is actually measuring GMV and return on ad spend from these campaigns. And that's a little bit harder because, as you can imagine, if someone buys right away by clicking into someone's product or link tree, that's easy to track, right? You can see the link when they've clicked into
Mhm.
it. You can see when they check out. But what about the rings of influence after? Like, what about like if I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I remember seeing this product, and then I head over to Wish and I'm looking up this product and I buy it, but I saw it on an influencer video.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
never going to be tracked that way,
Yeah.
right? So I think even though you can turn it into a performance marketing metric and you can track it that way, I almost think of it as like a SaaS sales funnel where you're going to eventually continue growing, but you're not going to be able to capture everything. You're not going to be able to capture every piece of influence or every piece of GMV that the influencer marketing program's running. But in order to make my executives happy, we do report on who actually clicks into the link and who actually uses a promo code. And we do a return on ad spend that way, and we actually track GMV that way. But I think it's
Okay.
getting your executives to understand that there's more than just those numbers that you're affecting. And so I've been thinking through like we had one video that went really viral. It was like a Nintendo Switch controller. It was off brand. It was like a cute Japanese style. So my idea now is, why don't we ask the merchants how much their sales went up after that video went viral? Because even though we might be able to track some sales through our links, I think the real tell will be if that product has started now selling more. And so I think that's, but it's hard. I think it's ever changing.
No, that makes sense, and I
Yeah.
think it's probably extremely difficult to directly quantify not just influencer marketing, but every other marketing initiative that you might be doing to a specific ROI metric, right? Like, and I think this is one of those scenarios where, as long as overall there is advancement, whether it is brand left, whether it's sales, because of a program that you've done, I think you can probably quantify that as a successful initiative. So,
Yeah, definitely.
in one of your last sort of sentences or comments, you talked about brand safety or issues with influencers. So probably my fourth question and last question is: so how does Wish or you balance the need for a diverse range of influencers with the potential risk of sort of negative publicity or controversy associated with certain influences, because in the end it is sort of uh, um, an unmoderated content, if you will. So how do you make sure that one of these programs don't work for you in a negative manner?
Yeah, that's actually really hard. And I think most brands, I do a lot of networking with other people in the influencer space. This is something that is changing. But I think like the future of this is having software partners that can help you through this. It's hard to scale without that partnership, right? Right now, I have one person on my team who watches every single piece of video content before it's posted, right? And I say before it's posted, but you can't even control sometimes an influencer will post it and won't submit it through whatever system you have them submitting their content. So you have to scour TikTok and Instagram too to make sure that someone hasn't posted without. And there's so many different safety pieces. There's IP infringement. There's, copyrighted music, copyrighted content behind someone. Also, things that might be allowed. Right? There might be things that you're like a family based company, so you don't want weapons or something inside of your actual post, right? Or even in past posts that someone might have posted, right? So how do you actually verify that? I think technology is going to have to catch up with that. I think it's really hard for us to have manual efforts where we're trying to track all that. Like even last week, there was a mom influencer, and I don't remember her name, so I apologize. That was caught up in a bunch of controversy, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this one of our influencers?" And what if I'd never heard of it and she was one of our influencers? We would have probably continued our relationship with her because there's just no possible way to to do checks and balances. So what my team and I do is we have Google alerts set up, for TikTok and Instagram. We do every week one of us just puts in our hashtags that we need, and then we will scour all the videos through there just to make sure that something isn't there that could come back and bite us a little bit down later down the road. But yeah, I mean that's how it's hard.
No. So this, I mean, based on what you've really said in our oral conversation, this does look like a massive operation, right? Like, the strategy involved. There's data, there's technology, there's team, there's structure, there's metrics. So, definitely all of these are sort of telltale signs about this influencer marketing starting to become a more mainstream marketing program within the marketing mix. So, um, any predictions that you have for where this whole thing is headed? What can brands expect? What can creators expect? Um, Short term, long term basis. Just a wild
Yeah,
guess.
I do think one thing is that brands have been using agencies to really manage their influencers. What I'm starting to see is more in-house internal agencies being built around influencer marketing. Um, it leads to cost cutting for brands, right? And then on top of that, leads to just a little bit more control of what you're posting. Because that last question that you asked me about protecting your brand, that's becoming more and more apparent as brands come into this influencer space. So the future that I do see is it was like the wild wild west in influencer marketing for a long time. Influencers were kind of able to act however they wanted to. Brands couldn't really do anything about it. But now when you're posting as a brand and something violates something, guess what? They're not coming after the influencer. They're coming after the brand who sponsored the post, right?
Mhm.
So I think we're going to see a lot more regulations coming through. You already see it in Europe. There's a lot of regulations happening around influencer marketing. I think we're going to see the same thing here in North America. We're going to see some more. And the influencers that are, and that I always recommend to influencers, be flexible because it's not the brands that want to put those guidelines kind of on you, but it is what is required, moving forward. But in the future of influencer marketing, people are going to have to become more savvy with all this technology that's coming through with the shop being able to shop directly inside. So I think just brands also just be flexible with how your influencer marketing. If it doesn't work 1 month, doesn't mean it's not going to work. You have to continue on, month over month over month to see kind of how this works. So,
Okay.
but yeah, we do it internally right now, and it's hard.
No, all of these, I really feel these are making something, a growing function of marketing world. To be very honest with you, both from the advertiser sides and the brand side, as well as from the content creator side, as creators, as it becomes easier and easier for creators to create content, and there are technologies to both moderate and facilitate the interaction between brands and the creators. I really believe influencer marketing will soon start to to have a major seat at the table, as far as the marketing mix goes. So,
Yeah, definitely.
well, that's really what we had for you today, Nami. So thanks once again for taking the time to speak with us. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.